the next one to drill down on is power management. And Stacy, maybe you can help us out here a little bit. What does power management really do?
So with the power management, there's kind of two aspects. One is my reporting. So I'm doing an inventory on the machines. These later machines, Windows 7, Windows 8, etc., will have power plans that you can put into play. And so what that means, we're all familiar with, especially on the laptops. What do you want me to do if I've been idle for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? So I can put it into hibernate, standby, etc. I also have those same power plans or profiles that I can put into play on my desktops. Why does that benefit me? Well, if the machine is sitting on our corporate network and it's on but no one's in front of it, it's dragging on the power. If I shut that down, now all of a sudden I'm not utilizing the power, and so essentially you'll see the concept green IT, but I'm being aware of the environment and not using power when it's not needed. With Asset Core, you're going to be able to report on those machines. You can kind of see how they're configured and what it would be, what's the cost for them to be running inefficiently, i.e., power on and no one's there, versus running more efficiently. And I'm using some of those power profiles whereby if no one's using them or if they've been idle, to go ahead and put one of these plans into play. So again, like the hibernate, like the suspend, etc. We can also, let's say one has not been deployed to a given machine, we can push those out to the boxes, again, allowing us to be more efficient with the power that we're consuming with these desktops, laptops that are on the network.
Okay. Well, I know that we had one customer that was really excited about this because they saw just a terrific return. And I guess, Steve, has that been your experience? Have you seen any customers told you that, we just got an outstanding return on this particular piece here?
Absolutely. This particular customer, they had over 80,000 devices, and with that, they knew that they wanted to go green and figure out a solution that would allow them the opportunity to shut down the device and wake the device back up on a preset schedule. And based upon the way that you can organize and group all of your devices, they can stagger that however they want to meet whatever requirements they had. And so at 5 o'clock at night, they would shut all of the devices down, and then at 6 o'clock in the morning, because these were older XP boxes and sometimes took a long time to come back up, they actually initiated the power on using Wake on LAN, and then all of these devices came back up. Well, the power savings on 80,000 devices actually can be reported on if you know exactly how much you're being charged per kilowatt and you know what the power consumption is per device. You can measure that out. And they figured that within less than a 3-month time frame, they were actually have already paid for the product because of the amount of energy costs that they had saved.
Okay, wow.
But it worked great for them because of their needs. Not everybody can shut down, between 5 and 6 o'clock, but it worked great for them.
Well, I just hope if the 80,000 devices, I hope they didn't all power on at the same time, or it may have been a little congested on the network.
Well, it wasn't in the same brick, and they had their setup so that it was staggered a little bit, but it didn't cause a problem whatsoever.
Okay. And I'm also curious because I've mentioned this to other customers, and oftentimes they'll say, "Oh, we already use a power management utility like Night Watchman." Have you seen that very often?
I've only run into it one time, and it was with that same customer I just told you about. So, okay. Whether they actually opted to use our product in lieu of that, or they already knew, I can't really speak to what their philosophy was as to why they're using Asset Core for that purpose, other than the fact it's a single console. It makes everything very easy to report and view on. Management has a single space to take a look at. You don't need to open 15 different products to do 15 different things. So I just firmly believe that the product itself speaks for itself.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep moving, and I just have to comment. I love this slide here. I have to comment on that. If you look around the table, you don't see any desktops. They're all mobile devices. So what does that say? Anyway, speaking of devices, here's another module called device management. So, Stacy, maybe you can tell us a little bit about this.
So with device management, a couple of kind of trains of thought there. The first one happens to be around my data prevention, data loss prevention. And so what you'll find inherent in Asset Core are jobs that I can push down to the devices that maybe prohibit USB writing. So no one's going to be able to put in the USB device and then copy off sensitive data to that device and then walk where they may. Other things that you're able to kind of turn on or turn off would be the the burning service. So again, burning any of that data to the media, the CDs, DVDs that are going to be inherent in some of those desktops or laptops. Wi-Fi is another thing that we can enable, so we can kind of lock down who they're going to be able to connect to if we want them connecting or not. So that's kind of from one aspect with respect to device management. The other one is going to be, okay, I'm at the technician level and I want to access that device. So I maybe want to get in and look at the registry. So me communicating with the registry on that machine, again, just from that Asset Core console. I don't have to visit the machine. I'm not having to do the remote control session. We're just with that device management. I can do that access directly. Same with seeing like some of the services that are on that machine. They call in and the machine is behaving erratically. I can, with the device management, see all the services that may be running and stop certain ones that could be problematic. So it's just allowing me to, again, manage that device from this remote console or from that help desk perspective, a remote station, if you will.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, that kind of concludes the different modules that we have, and we have received a number of different questions while we've been on the line. And so, if you all have any other questions, now would be a good time to submit them, and you can use the Q&A box. And I'm just going to start. I see one that's in there right now, and it says, "Is the Discovery and Inventory module part of the IT Service Management Suite?" So I think they're probably referring to FootPrints Service Core. So I guess I can kind of answer that one. Asset Core would be a separate, and Discovery and Inventory would be separate within Asset Core. Did I get that right, Stacy?
You did. So their
Okay.
ITSM purchase is separate from this solution that we've been looking at in Asset Core.
Okay. Here is a question that came in. How do you organize assets? Now, this is a very general question, but Steve, you see this every time you go out. Is there any rules of thumb or anything that you would tell a customer if they came to you and said, "What should I do?" What would you say?
Yeah, well, I start off kind of with a template, and again, this is very database driven. So everything that basically lives within the back-end database. So if I want to go ahead and organize all of my devices by operating system, all I have to do is create a query and say, show me everything that starts with Microsoft Windows and that does not contain server. And now I can get all of my OSs for my desktops and my laptops, and then I can start to organize and look at exactly what's going that way. If I do the opposite of that, show me everything Microsoft Windows that contains server, then I can look at all of my different server OS platforms put out by Microsoft, and I can take a quick look to see how many different boxes are running that particular OS. That's just the beginning. Basically, we can do it also by location, so we can have a series of IPs put in. So I know that all of these devices live at site XYZ. All of those devices live at site ABD. All of these are at MYF or wherever the case may be, so that we can now organize all of our devices by site, and it makes it real easy to see exactly what's going on. We can do it by name of the device. We can pull in Active Directory and actually see how you have all of your devices organized within your OU structure. And if you want to assign permissions based upon Active Directory, you can do that. You can do it any way you want to. But I've seen customers create device organizational units, if you would, in multitudes of different ways. And every time I go out, I see something different. So there's not any one standard. There's a base level that we start with, and then we just embellish from there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Here's the other questions here are somewhat specific, but I'll throw them out there anyway. And this one says, is there a way to change index update frequency?
And the answer to that is yes. Asset Core utilizes an indexing utility that lives within the application server itself. So what it does is it reaches out to the database, goes and pulls all of that data, and then puts together an index that lives on the application server. And under Global Settings, System Variables, and then it's the last tab. I've got to remember what the last tab is. Hold on one second, and I'll tell you what the last tab is. It's Quick Search, yeah. So under Quick Search by default, that's set to run at the top of every hour. It'll run every hour, 24 hours a day. If you ever need to update it, there's a little green triangle that you can just click on, and it will automatically update that index when you need it. Or you can change the scheduled job. And then there's a maintenance job that's run once a week that will actually delete that index and rebuild it from scratch, and that's set to run on Sundays. So hopefully that answered the question.
Okay. Another question that just came in, how do you handle outdated devices that have not connected in a while and are not likely to connect again?
So I'm going to go ahead and take this, Stacy.
Okay.
This is all part of lifecycle maintenance. And out of the box, we provide you a query that says, show me all devices that have not contacted for more than 30 days. We've not talked to it. We've not discovered it. It has an agent, but it hasn't checked back in. All of those icons, if it has an agent on, are going to be red. So because of the fact we're not like SCCM, where we'll go ahead and blow out a record in the event that it no longer reports in, we want you to be in control of that record, because you're going to put financial asset management data against that record. You're going to put cost against that record, support information against that record, and we just don't want to arbitrarily delete it if you still want that record. If that device goes into the closet and is there for more than 30 days, we just don't want to arbitrarily delete it out. So at that point, we can create a device group, move everything in based upon your criteria, whether it's 45 days, 90 days, 180 days, whatever. We can then deprecate it, which puts a retired statement on it. If you've had these assets tied into a CMDB, it would update the CMDB with the retired status. So now you're good to go, and then after however long of having it deprecated, you can actually delete them out of the system. So it's a pretty easy, straightforward method of managing your assets.